Thank you very much for joining today, and I really appreciate your time and to attend this webinar. And I hope that this will be a very informative and useful and helpful seminar webinar for you guys as well, based on this special topic that is very new in UAE right now. And this is the first time that is going to implementing economic substance regulations in UAE. And we will be discussing briefly, and then of course we will be sharing all the presentation to you guys as well via email, and all your questions will be answered. We already received a lot of questions as well from different participants, and then we will be going. Just this is ये पहले नहीं था क्या? It's just started now. It just started now. Before it was. It's okay. It's okay. 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 Let's discuss about some sort of agenda today. What we are going to discuss actually, that will be some sort of. I will be going for discussion the agenda, and then there will be some sort of introduction with the speaker as well, and then key terms and obligations as well, and then there will be some sort of discussion why this ERS came into effect in UAE as well, and then scope and all these activities and meeting requirements and reporting requirements as well that we will be discussing on this one. And of course, some sort of non-compliance, and penalties that we will be discussing on this agenda as well. So this is a basic agenda that we will be discussing today. And today we will be, we are actually two speakers. Myself, actually, Muhammad Attar. I'm partner in internal audit and risk management in GSS Management Consultancy and International Chartered Accountants. I am actually a chartered certified accountant, and have worked in more than 12-15 years around in multinational companies in Etisalat, including Etisalat in UAE and ENY. My speaker actually that he will lead to the slides, that Mr. Gulzar Ahmed. He's a managing partner for our GSS Management Consultancy and International Chartered Accountant, and he's very expert in this field, and he will be going through all the slides, the basic slides, and I will be, of course, will be adding as well in some slides. Then questions will be taking at the end of this session as well, and then I hope this will be a grateful session and useful session for you guys. I will hand over to mic to Mr. Gulzar, and I hope he can just give you briefly about the basic concept and about the ESR as well in this one.
Thank you, Muhammad Adar. Hello, audience. Good evening, good afternoon. Assalamu alaikum. I hope everybody will be enjoying his good health, and we wish and pray for the good health of you and your family. My name is Gulzar Ahmed. I am Chartered Accountant from the Institute of Chartered Accountant of Pakistan. I have 17-year experience at different geographical locations. I have served in different countries like USA, UAE, and Pakistan. And right now it's my pleasure that I am working as a managing partner of GSS Group, that comprised of GSS Management Consultancy and GSS International Chartered Accountants. It's our commitment to you that this hour will be learning hour of all of you, and it will be interactive sessions. If you have any doubts, any questions, it will be our pleasure to answer those ones, but due to limitations, we might not be able to answer all of those questions, but 100% sure we will reply back to all of your questions by email. We can start. Let's have a key terms and abbreviations just to build a concept. Before that one, I want to give you one small example that we will keep in mind to clear the ESR. Suppose we have two companies. One is in Dubai, UAE. The other is in UK. We are getting some royalty from UK company. Can we consider that royalty in UAE books as per international tax laws or not? If we keep that in our mind, then our whole topic for economic substance regulation will be clear. So this answer will automatically be done once we have done this presentation. We will be using some abbreviations. The first one will be ESR, that's most commonly used word. It means Economic Substance Regulations here in UAE. Then very important thing on which its ESR is based is BEPS. It means Base Erosion and Profit Sharing. What does it mean? It means shifting your profits from higher tax zones to lower tax zones, and thus avoidance of tax or reduction in tax. As we have given examples, like in the sense of royalty, you can transfer maximum of your profits to UAE entity where you can avoid maximum tax. So is it allowed under international regulations or not? So basically BEPS deals with that one. But as itself, BEPS means base erosion and profit sharing in order to avoid tax. Just see the italic words, two lines that are mentioned, and it will be clear. Sharing of profits from higher tax zones are countries to low or zero tax countries, thus reducing tax base in higher tax zones or countries. The next, our abbreviation will be OECD. OECD is an organization that is handling international tax plus some other activities as well, like international funds transfers, monetary transfers. It was founded in 1961, 30th September 1961. As of now, it has 37 members, and its head office is in France, Paris. It's also called OECD and sometimes OECD. So both are interchangeable words and they are using as well. So they have a very good site. All the policies are there. You can go, and the most likely, I like their motive. I like their logo. Better policies for better lives, and everybody wants that one. So all the policies and economic substance basically is regulated by this OECD. And UAE is one of the member of OECD. Then we will be using one word, CIGA. It means core income generating activities. This will be explained further in, and it will be clear what does it mean. But for the time being, just see what does abbreviation mean. CIGA means core income generating activities. We will be focusing BEPS and OECDS in next 2 to 3 slides, just to give you a brief introduction. So everybody attending this session should be subject expert in this one. A brief history about BEPS. As we have mentioned that BEPS means basic erosion and profit shifting. OECD published basically BEPS rules reports on 12th Feb 2013. Then they have given action plan on 19 July 2013. It comprised of 15 action plans, how to avoid tax plus certain other things. And this was approved by G20 countries as well. G20 countries, if you want to search the list, you can find it Google, or if you ask, we will provide you that one. But just for a clarification purpose, it does not mean that only 20 countries are part of it. It comprised more than 20 countries, means 19 countries plus all the countries that are part of European Union. So it might be 34 or it might be more than that one. So G20 means 19 countries plus all countries included in European Union. Come to this BEPS, the first deliverable action plan was published by OECD on 16 September 2014. We will go by hierarchy wise when it started. Then their final report was published on October 2015. It's just knowledge purpose. No need to memorize all these dates. We will not be sitting in the exam of ICAP or ACCA papers. Then this was approved basically by United Nations Committee as well, and they have created a subcommittee for that one. Because this is worldwide issue, there was a tax evasion of billions of dollars, around 200, more than 200 billions dollar tax evasion. So they have created a subcommittee on this BEPS, and we have provided you link so that you can easily find their policies, their procedures as well. Then European Commission made a NT package on again for this one, that was on 28th January 2016, and it comprised of three things. Number one, ensuring effective taxation in European Union, increasing tax transparency, and securing a level playing field. Countries and jurisdictions all over the world, especially who are part of OECD, are working together to implement BEPS package. Now, after this discussion, everybody have some knowledge about ESR, BEPS, and OECD. This BEPS still will continue. You are sharing your screen. I'm sharing. So just for a few minutes, please bear with us. I think you are sharing your screens. Okay. Oh, I'm sharing my screen. You're sharing. Who? You see my screens or other screens? Okay. Sorry for the inconvenience. Next step is BEPS action plans. Because BEPS itself, the word itself means avoidance of tax. So they have an action plan for this BEPS. And there are 15 points for OECD. We have summarized those points for your knowledge purpose. And out of 15 points, 4 are minimal points that meets every country in order to be a member of OECD. Any of them is missing 4 minimal points, it cannot be a member of the OECD. We will not go through each and every point, but whatever is necessary, we will go through that one, because otherwise the topic will be a diversion from that one. But if anyone needs explanations, they have a whole agenda. What was the topic? What was the issue? How they have tackled that one? And even public opinions and expert opinions, professional opinions are there. We have gone through all the big four's opinions on that one, and we found that Deloitte is the best one. So we, for your knowledge purpose, we have provided the link of OECD plus Deloitte slides as well. So you can go and search by yourself. Out of 15, 4 are the minimal criteria that has to be met by a member of OECD, and UAE of course has to meet this criteria. Out of these 4, we will be discussing only one, that is point 5, harmful tax practices. And in our next slide, we will be covering that one. Harmful practices means every country has to make an assessment of preferential tax regime. There should be a transparency framework, and there should be a substantial activities requirement. On the basis of this substantial activities requirements, economic substance regulation are based. We will again come to our first example, 2 entities, one in UAE, the other in UK. So if you are generating income in UAE, how will you substantiate that you have generated income in UAE? Because there will be a no tax. In fact, that income might be generated from UK entity, but that only transferred for tax purposes in UAE. Before that, there was no law, so there was no requirement. But now, if you fall under certain categories, you have to substantiate, you have to explain that that income relates to UAE. That is the whole crux of economic substance regulation. If you are clear about that, the concept about the crux, trust me, the next presentation slides, you will really enjoy that one. So I will summarize this one. BEPS action plan has 15 points. 4 of them are mandatory in order to comply, in order to be a OECD members. And we will be discussing only point 5th, because on the basis of point 6 of BEPS, economic substance regulation are based. We can move to next. Background of the economic substance regulations, UAE, we have seen that, we have read through that one. But again, as a member of OECD, including framework, UAE has committed that it will comply all the 4 requirements, including BEPS 5th point and including ESR. OECD has given, authorized 12 jurisdictions to implement these ESRs. On 27th June 2018, UAE has signed a multilateral convention with the OECD relating to BEPS, that it will implement all those 4 points. Now we will come to just 1 point, 5th point, ESR points. The cabinet decision, Ministry's cabinet decision 31 of 2019, that is very important. And if you want to be a subject specialist, we will suggest you should go through that one. If you have a copy, it's good. Otherwise, just send us one email and we will share that one as well. So this will be the base. UAE cabinet decision, ministers decisions, cabinet decision, or resolution decision 31 of 2019. Thereafter, they have issued an other decision that is called ministerial decisions, that was issued on 11th September 2019. But it was basically a guidance that gives a more descriptive about the first law, that is 31. Then UAE Cabinet Minister Regulation 58, that identifies the relevant authorities. Here we come, our UAE entity. I am a mainland company, suppose, to whom I should be reporting. Or if I am based on DAFZA, to whom I should be reporting. If I am based on DIFC, to whom I should be reporting. So this cabinet decisions identifies to whom you have to report. You will comply first that reporting authority. And then if there is some contradiction between this law and that the regulation issued by that authority, you have to comply the other authority, that is your relevant authority. That can be a DAFZA, that can be a JAFZA, that can be a DIFC authority. So first regulation you have to identify. If that regulation is silent or it does not say anything, then you have to follow this cabinet decision, that is 31. That is also one of the most important point to keep in consideration, because there is one conflict, one contradiction between the cabinet decision and the decision taken by the relevant regulatory authority, and we will discuss at the end of these slides as well. Then we will see a relevant authority guide released UAE Minister of Finance in April 2020, and it has some more clarity on that one. I will summarize this one. In order to comply OECD requirement, UAE has committed all the 4 action points, including ESR points, and they have promulgated a law that is called Cabinet Resolution 31 of 2019. And they have different guidelines as well that we have already discussed. We can move to our next slides, and my co-host, co-speaker, Mr. Muhammad Athar will have highlight on that one. Please.
Okay. Okay, gentlemen and ladies, I think we have one lady as well in between, I guess. Thank you very much, Mr. Guldar, for giving us the wonderful, the background of ESR and the OECD as well. The basic purpose actually, I think, why we should take, we have take long time on this actually OECD, because the basic purpose we want to get understanding about the ESR, why it came into effect in UAE. It's based what is the OECD as well. That's why we just put some sort of stress on this topic as well. So now we will move on forward for this subject as well. What is the scope of ESR? Who is relevant? Which companies are relevant to ESR, and which is applicable to which companies as well? So it will be, you know, I mean, mostly people knows that who is, I mean, this ESR is applicable to which companies, but for your information, we just want to cover the scope actually. Any company, a licensee under the regulations, we can say, is a natural or legal person licensed by competent authority. It can be a mainland, it can be a free zone, it can be a, just like in DAFC, DAMC, DSO, whatever the free zones, RACIs, whatever. So any company that are working with the relevant, you know, there are some 6, 8, we will go with the 8, you know, the relevant activities. If they are acting those, doing those relevant activities, that is applicable to those companies as well. That is a whole UAE, we can say that. It's a free zone, including free zones as well. So who is exempted from this one? That I will I give you some sort of example, and just like the activities which is applicable for the companies as well, then it will be, then it will give you more clarity than who is under this scope as well. Only exemption, there is exception for some companies. If your company is indirectly, or we can say directly or indirectly, is owned by 51% or more. I mean 51% or more for the UAE government or any federal emirates level, and the government is exempted from the UAE ESR. So they are not bound to do the ESR notification and the assessment as well. We will just move forward for the next one. This will be.
Thank you. Let me conclude on this one. So scope of ESR, mine is mute, so you have done. So scope of ESR, it can be individual, it can be a single owned company, it can be private company, it can be a listed company. But the basic criteria is that if you have a license in UAE and you are carrying a certain activities, there are 9 types of activities, then you will fall under the scope of ESR. Who is exempt? If you are holding a license, if you are carrying those activities, but still government at federal minister or emirates level hold 51%, then you are exempt. Now we will see those activities, and Mr. Athar will explain. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Gulzar. Okay, these are the relevant activities and the companies. These are the, okay, thank you very much, Mr. Gulzar. These are the relevant entities. They are under the scope of ESR. That in case of, I mean, just like 1 to 9, I will just go through on this one. The banking businesses, that is very important, because mostly actually insurance businesses as well, investment funds, I mean, lease financing as well, headquarter businesses, if we have the headquarter in UAE, and then the shipping businesses as well, holding company businesses, intellectual property, that is very important. There are some business activities that we will go in detail, only 2-3 activities. Some activities we will just go briefly on those ones, so you can get the understanding about these activities as well. Distribution and service center, that is also very important, that we have to, if any one of your company is doing these activities, you are automatically under the scope of ESR. You have to go for the notification by the deadlines that we will discuss it, and you have to comply with the law as well.
Yeah. Let me add something. Thank you, Athar. Thank you, Mr. Athar. Let me add something. So basically, there are 9 entities or 9 types of activities that will fall under the scope of ESR as per notification 31. Now, these are the entities. Next question is, like a banking business, or 100% banking business comes under the scope of ESR or not? Or 100% business of insurance comes under ESR or not? The second question, if we have more than one relevant, if we have one entity, but we are doing more than one relevant activity. Like we are doing banking as well as we are doing the insurance business, like in most of the banks are doing. So will they be reporting one ESR or more than one ESR? The question of the first one is that if we, these are the relevant activities, not 100% activities are reportable under ESR. Only they have mentioned specific activities. There are core income generating activities. The next slides will cover that one. The answer of the second question is that if we have more than one income generating activities from these entities, we have to file a separate ESR for each type of activity. Yes, Mr. Atta, thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. I hope some questions are also coming, so we will be just going through those questions as well. We're noting those questions, and of course, we will give replies on those questions as well. And okay, the scope of ESR, those what we discussed, that was entities. These are the relevant activities. If your entity is doing these activities, then you are of course under the scope of ESR. So in banking business, there are specific activities. In banking, they are doing some sort of activities. So those will be under the scope of ESR, just like in case raising funds, managing risks, including credit, currency, and interest risk as well, traveling, taking hedging actually positions as well, providing loans, just like the mostly banking sector, they are doing these activities. So we can assume that those, I mean, the banking sector is, if they are doing those activities are under the scope of ESR, they have to compliance those ESR regulations, and they must go for the notification and the assessment of those activities. Just like in insurance businesses, we will share all these details to you due to time constraint. I think I will not go through all these, only 2-3. Just like in insurance businesses, just like predicting and calculating risk as well, insuring on reinsuring against risk and providing insurance businesses services to the client, underwriting insurance and reassurance. So these investment fund management is there, lease finance business activities are there. If you belongs with any entity and you can see these, I mean the entities are belongs to those activities and they are doing these activities, then you can consider yourself as your company, you know, as the scope, under the scope of ESR. Just like in a shipping business, I can just go through on shipping, managing crew and overhauling and maintaining ships. These are also the activities that under the scope of ESR. If you are doing this one, overseeing and tracking shipping, and if you can see the next one, it's a relevant, you know, the activities. It's a holding company. That is also important. We will discuss in detail 2 activities. That is a holding and intellectual property. That is very important. That will give you more idea in terms of clarity that Mr. Guldar will take you in detail that what is the intellectual property. If you have any intellectual property business, or maybe you have the holding company, so how those companies and the activities are just like belongs to these scope of the ESR. So this one actually from number 6, Mr. Guldar will go through all these activities and then the condition how your company is meeting the economic substance requirements. That is very important to get, you know, if you have any question on this one, that if whether your company is under the scope of ESR, that for activities, but there are some criteria for the meeting, whether you are eligible for the economic substance regulation and the requirements for the notification is there as well. So from there, Mr. Guldar will tell you in detail that whether your company is eligible for not, if you are meeting these requirements. Thank you very much. Mr. Guldar.
Thank you, Mr. Athar. We just recap. We have seen there are 9 entities that has to report ESR, but we are saying this is as per regulation 31. We will see there is inconsistency of regulatory authorities, and we will see that they have covered all the entities as well. But as per law 31 law, there are 9 entities and there are certain activities that comes under that one. Now we will come to relevant activity. We have given you one example at the start just to cover the topic that we have 2 entities. One is in Dubai and the other is in UK. So if we are earning something, we have to substantiate that those earning relates to UAE. For that one, we have to meet 3 conditions. We have seen 9 entities. For all the 9 entities, we have to meet these 3 conditions except 2. The holding company, they have lesser requirement. And for high risk intellectual property, they have very rigid or very tough requirements. So other than holding company and intellectual property business, 7 entities will be covered under that one. So you have to prove the 3 things. Number 1, you have adequate employees, physical assets and expenditure in the UAE. If they ask me, is it relates to UAE entity? I can say yes, because I have adequate employees, I have adequate physical assets and adequate expenditure in the UAE. We will see details of this topic in further slides. The next one, core income generating activities are undertaken in the UAE. We have seen entities, then under that one, we have seen core generating activities. So if there is something covering under that one, that is generated in UAE. The third point, that is directed and managed in the UAE. So if you meet all the conditions, then you are substantiating that yes, that income relates to UAE. Otherwise, they can say no, this does not relate to UAE, and for taxation purpose, international purpose, they can add to UK entity and it will be taxed in UK. Although you will be recording the income in UAE, but for taxation purpose, they will not accept, and that income will be recorded in UAE if you will not substantiate these 3 conditions. We will go one by one. Number 1, if you have adequate employees, physical assets and expenditures, this can be 2 types. You have your own assets or these can be outsourced. If you have your own sources, they are saying number 1A, you have fully qualified staff or equivalent. Then you have operating expenses, you have physical presence in UAE that can be substantiated by trade license and all those things. Then if you are outsourcing that one, it is very, very important. If you are outsourcing, then you have to meet certain conditions. Number 1, the related entity or the third party have adequate activities, means they have proper employees, they have expenditure, they have premises in the UAE, and their licensee is able to do that one. Then you are basically supervising and controlling the activities, not that the provider. Supervision should be from your side, and you show that the outsource was not a circumvent the compliance of the regulations, means they are also compliant the regulations. Here is what does mean by adequate. We have searched a lot of regulations including OECD, but they have not defined the adequate. It means it's judgmental. If one person can meet the requirement, it's adequate, or 10% meet the requirement, it's adequate. It means it depends on nature of the business and size, and it depends according to the requirement. Basically, they does not want to hire more people or deploy resources only because of this requirement. We can move to next one. I hope it is clear that 3 points were there. Adequate employees, physical assets and expenditure in UAE. We have done that. The second point, core income generating activities should be in the UAE. There is no further explanation needed. If someone needs the explanation, we can explain that one. Directed and managed in the UAE. How we can say that it is directed and managed in the UAE? They have certain criteria that you are holding board meetings in the UAE. You have a quorum for that one. You have a board minutes. You have proper manager that is based in the UAE. And the key decisions are basically made in the UAE. So that shows that these are directed and managed in the UAE. If you have any questions, that will be welcome. Otherwise, we can move to next, and at the end, we will answer all of those sessions by this session or through email. Most important, if that is applicable, in most of the cases, this might not be applicable, but if it is applicable, then we will see. We have seen that for 7 activities, 3 requirements must be met. But for businesses that are acting as a holding company or as a holding company, there are lesser requirements, just 2 requirements. Number 1, if they are complying with the existing reporting requirement, it's okay. And they have employees and physical assets. Physical asset means they have premises, and even premises like registered office, workplaces, small office, or businesses centers, these are already acceptable, and they have employees that shows that they are working. So head office, they have a lesser requirement. They does not say that it should be a proper spending and all those things. That requirement does not is relevant for this one. But if you fall under high risk intellectual property business, that is relevant, because before that one, companies were playing with this one in order to be EPS, in order to avoid tax. They were saying, we will charge you royalty for intellectual property, and they were just transferring the funds from one entity to the other entity, and they were saving the tax. So they have very tough requirement for intellectual property. And it is our expert opinion that if you are under that category, you should consult some good consultant for intellectual property, because you have to substantiate that income relating to intellectual property is relating to UAE entity. Otherwise, it will be reversed back to the country from where you got for tax purposes, for tax calculation purposes, and you have to pay tax there. Again, example, UAE entity, you received, you charge or you received some royalty for intellectual property, but authority says no, you do not meet ESR requirement, tax purposes, it will be added back. So it will be a loss for your company as well. There are 2 conditions basically. Number 1, you have created the intellectual property by your own. You have spent time, you have spent research and development, and you have licensed the IP assets to one or more connected persons, means intercompany it can be, or it can be your 100% own, or it can be your intercompany assets. Basically, the theme is that you have either developed by yourself or you have acquired from some other party. That shows that you have intellectual property. Then you can substantiate. If you do not substantiate these, then it is very difficult that to substantiate that the income that falls under intellectual property relates to UAE. Still you can demonstrate, but there is a rigorous process, very tough process, like they will ask adequate full-time employees, your business plans, proofs that decisions are being done in the UAE. These are few examples. The list is can be very long. So I will summarize this one. If you have intellectual property that is generated by internally by research and development, of course you have some research and development department, you can substantiate. Or you have acquired that asset by paying, you can substantiate. It's not a big issue. But if you have not done these 2 things, then it is very difficult to substantiate. We will move to next. I hope it's clear. Mr. Attar will explain the reporting requirements, and if there will be something, I will add as well. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much, Mr. Guldar. I hope this will be very useful for the attendees and the participants. And I hope there will be a questions as well. A lot of questions we are receiving as well. And eventually we will be replying with the emails with the, we will be sending this actually slides to you as well. And maybe a lot of questions as later on, you can send it to us. So reporting requirements and the due dates, that is very important to understand. First of all, we understand about the basic requirements and the scope of the ESR. These are the reporting requirements and the due dates that we have to follow actually. Otherwise, there are a lot of complications, the non-compliance, the penalties as well. So ESR, every licensee who is, you know, the ESR, under the scope of ESR, they have to do these activities. They have to do those steps. The ESR notification, first of all, they have to notify the relevant authority within a time frame. We will be discussing the time frame, the next page, that what are the deadlines and the due dates for the timeline. First step is to just give the notification whether you are doing those activities or not. And the ESR return, that is, we have to file once this notification is done, then ESR return should be filed based accordingly your, you know, the financial statement year, the year end as well. So this will be number 3, satisfy the economic substance test as well. That will be discussed, Mr. Guldar, in detail. Provide information as and when required by the authority. So you have to provide all the information whenever it's requesting by the authorities, and all these based on these notification and the returns as well. We have to give everything. Exchange of information with foreign competent authority as well. That is also very important. If Mr. Guldar will add some points in this one.
Yeah, sure.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Atar. So this portion relates to basically accountants and finance guys, especially like people like me and Atar and all of us. So basically there are 2 reporting requirements. One is called notification and one is called return. Notification means you are informing authorities that you fall under this ESR. And deadline of most of the companies is 30th June. We will see each and every company wise, by zone wise. Then you have to file ESR return. That will be at the end of your financial year. Financial year is determined through your article of association and memorandum of association. These ESR requirements are applicable in UAE from 1st January 2019. So it means if my year end is 31st December, I have to report 31st December 2020 ESR return. But if my period is post 30th 1st April 2020, then I have to report this 31st March 2021. But that will be relating to ESR return. For ESR notification, if you have a company that existed on 1st Jan 2019, you have to ESR notification for that. We will see in that one. Another clarification: if a company is established on suppose February, does it has to file a ESR or notification or ESR return? No, no need to file ESR notification because it will fall into next. We can see the next one. Yes, please.
These are the, thank you very much, Mr. Guldar, for explaining these points. So these are the requirements, reporting requirements and due dates for the companies if they are falling under the scope of this ESR notification and assessment. So there are a lot of zones in UAE actually. So there are a lot of, you know, the different dates are available right now. Mostly dates falls 30th June 2020. I mean, we can say 2020, 30th June 2020. So Dubai airport free zone is already passed. The people actually, it was the 3rd June 2020, and DEFC is coming date in almost after 6 days. The deadline is that you have for the this is for the notification. You have to notify all these authorities based on these, you know, the deadlines. So after 6 days, there will be a DAFC and then DMCC on mostly companies. If you can see the free zones, and they are the 30th June. Even DED, they announce the 30th June that whatever the companies they are doing the relevant activities, it will be, you know, that it will be on they have to notify on 30th June 2020. So basically we can say mostly, you know, the free zones and the companies are the deadlines is 30th June. That we don't know. I mean, it's already extended because it was before, it was 2 months back, then they extended. I think this is the maybe last time they extended, and then this will be applicable. Every company must have to notify if they are under the scope of ESR.
Thank you, Mr. Atar. I want to add something in this one, and it is very very important. That is basically here is inconsistency between the law, we have seen that 31 regulation, and the guideline issued by different reporting authorities. Law says that if you have any entity that falls under 9 categories and then they have specific activities, then you have to file a notification. But the authorities are saying whatever type of business you have to notify. Except for few, all the free zones have said that all the companies have to file a notification. We are not sure about the final reporting, whether they will be asking or not, but as of now notification is mandatory for all the free zones, except we have mentioned Dubai World Trade Center. They have not mentioned, so it means we will follow the law. Only companies that falls under that 9 categories and activities, they will do that one, otherwise they will not. Same way, we have a DED, Ministry of Economy. Law is silent on that, their regulation is silent on that one, so we will assume that only entities that fall under the category and they have a core income generating activities from that one, that falls under that category. Let me summarize one more time. You have a lessons in that one, you have fall under that category one, any of the 9 entities. Then you have core income generating activities. Any of the 3 steps is missing, you will not file a notification. But according to the regulations of the reporting authorities, you have to notify. Yes, thank you very much. And for ESR reporting, we have already explained, it will be your financial year end starting from 1st Jan 2019 onward. It can be 31st December, most of the companies, it can be 31st March, or it can be any other date. Yes, please, Mr.
Okay. Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Guldar. This is also a very important topic that we are going to discuss now. This is the non-compliance related issues and the risk as well, and the penalties. Basically, my expertise are on the non-compliance and the compliance related issues and the risk management as well. So this is just like why I want to stress on this one, that in case we have to, even you can do yourself, you can go for the consultants, but you have to do it for the assessment of your companies for the notification. Otherwise, the risk is huge. Maybe notification will be 0, but if you see the first time, if you are failed to notify the relevant authorities, then it will be a 10,000 dirham to 50,000 dirham penalty. That is for the first time. Just like, for the, if you have to determine these fall in the scope of regulation by the ESR, and then assess, implement the potential options as well. So if you will go for the, if you will fail for the first year, that will be up to 50,000 dirham. You will be getting the, you will slap around 50,000 dirham for the fine. If it will continue, that's why I'm stressing on the assessment of your, I mean, whether you fall in those categories or under the scope of ES or not, because that is, if you can see the number, if you continue the, if you just like fail to do in the second year as well, then it will be around 100K to 300K dirham. I mean, the fine, you can imagine how much the penalties and the risk of the non-compliance as well. And that will be the suspension of your, and maybe they can revoke your, the license as well, in case you continue to, I mean, after the second year, if it is continue as well. So this is very important to, just like for you to assess your own, I mean, just like the activities, and maybe you can hire a consultant, or you can assess yourself at least to save or maybe to mitigate these risks. So that is very important for you. So if you want to do any, okay.
Yeah, thank you. I am assuming that all of you are professionals and you will comply requirement of your entity. It's not only monetary terms, it's basically a black spot that you got in a sense of fine. And the major one is basically if the license is suspended, withdrawn, or non-renewable, that is a major point as well. And we have seen the entities that have a revenue in millions and billions, like banking, insurance, and all shipping industries. If they will non-comply, then there will be a problem because they will not be able to continue that one. And non-compliance of one entity may involve the group as a whole as well, because OECD members means they can catch you from anywhere. Thank you, Atar. We can move to next one.
Okay, thank you very much, gentlemen. I think we are shorting the time as well. So we just, I mean, just put to give you some sort of, you know.
Yeah, let me summarize just in 2 minutes. I will not take much of your time, more than 2 minutes. We have seen the requirements is basically from BEPS that companies should not avoid tax. That is the whole crux. We have seen OECD has taken the initiative. Then we have seen BEPS has 15 points. 4 are mandatory for all. Then we have seen action 5 on the basis of that ESR is based. Then we have seen background of UAE 31 cabinet decision is the most important. Then we have seen the scope. It comes all the entities except 51 by the government. Then we have seen 9 entities that fall under that category for this 31 regulations. In that there are certain core income generating activities, and we have seen that one. Then we have seen that in order to substantiate economic substance regulations, you have to meet 3 conditions except holding company and high risk IP. That you have adequate staff, core income generating activities directed and managed in the UAE. Then holding company have lesser requirement, IP have a higher requirement. Then we have seen reporting deadlines. One is notification, that is very close to this in June mostly, and we have ESR requirements. And then we have seen by authority wise, and there is inconsistency. Now just recall my question. We have one entity in UAE, one entity in UK, and you are getting some royalty fee from UK. Can it be considered under UAE entity or not? Yes, if you can substantiate economic substance regulations, it will be income of UAE entity. If you cannot, it will not be. We can move to next one, then non-compliance. We can help you in economic substance impact assessment. What will be the impact? If we see that you have recorded some income, but it should not be income of UAE entity as per ESR, that we can identify. We can have impact assessment. Then we can have we can provide you assistance in filing notifications for all the free zones and even in UAE entity, the mainland entity as well. And we can help you in final report that will be at the end of your financial years of the companies. Notification might not be too much complicated, but this report, final report is will be complicated, specifically if you have intellectual property. Now we will take some questions and we will answer, and then hopefully in 5 to 10 minutes we will close the sessions, but we will answer all of your questions.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Guldar. I hope this must be a wonderful session for the people actually. I mean, how they are just like, and it will be useful for you maybe. Whatever the session and the almost in 2 minutes, Mr. Guldar, he already actually explained whatever we discussed right now. What we are just like looking for, I mean, the question. There are some questions that we can do. We can just give. I mean, that we can reply on those questions as well. But mostly question, what we can do. We have the email addresses for all the relevant, the participants. We will just go sending these slides for the information, and we will appreciate. We will, if there will be any question that we will just going, we will be replying on these on the questions as well, on the emails as well, definitely. So
let me take some questions and then
I will just give Mr. Guldar. The question is, if the company has the telecom license, maybe.
Please bear with us. Let's have some questions. Yes, what is the question? the company has telecom license, who would be regulatory authority for?
See, if telecom, no, I will answer from here. The question was the telecom authority, if a telecom company is there, who will be regulatory authority?
See where it is registered. If it is registered in mainland, then DED or Ministry of Economy will be the regulatory authority. If it is registered in any free zones, it can be offshore, then see where it is registered. Where it is registered, that will be the reporting authority for that entity. I hope it answers, but if you need further, we will explain that one. Yes, next question. We are happy that there are a lot of questions, so I think it was interactive session and you enjoyed.
Let me check with this question, so we can take relevant question. The list of exclusive list of activities. Yeah, maybe we can reply on this one.
Yes, yes.
What's we provided, that is very it's from the law actually. That is,
Yes, they are saying that provide a full list of exclusive activities. Whatever the activities law has covered, we have included in that one, and we will share that presentation as well. Further, we will create a WhatsApp group for all the participants who have participated. But before that, I have very good offer for all of you. Guess what? Free lunch, dinner, and coffee if you visit my office from my side, and it will be my pleasure to have some time with all of you. Unfortunately, we did not do due to coronavirus. In fact, otherwise it might have a face-to-face session. And we will create WhatsApp group as well of this group, and we will keep in touch. Forget about monetary terms. Whatever suggestions you will need with respect to ESR or with respect to VAT, it will be answered for all of you. Of course, to others we will charge for something, but for you it will be free of cost. Yes, please.
yeah, mostly actually we are getting the comments that thank you very much for the appreciation, guys. We tried our best to give you as much information as we can give. So I think that will be very useful session as well. And what we can do, there are some other, time is almost finished. So what we can do, we will just go through all the questions and we will reply back in all the questions individually who has asked some questions as well. I hope that will be, this is a great session for you guys. Your comments would be very appreciated, and maybe you can just give us some sort of feedback. So how we can, if there are some sort of, you feel that there is a lacking, we can just you can give us some sort of feedback.
We will share.
Yeah,
we will share the appraisal form by end of today or maximum by tomorrow, and appreciate if you can get some of your time and fill that one, so it will improve our next session as well. We will put this on YouTube with your permission, and we will share the link as well.
Okay, thank you very much, everyone.
Thank you.
Really
have a great evening and great weekend.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
I hope trust this helps.